Okay, hello. I'm back. Hi. How's it going? I hope you guys are having a good day. I just had a severe miscalculation on how much water my wet palette needed, and I've made a mess. So, I cleaned it up, and I suppose I'm going to get back to this commission and try and get this out of the way and all done so that I can move on and work on something else. So, I've made a little bit more progress on this guy. I worked a little bit on him off stream. Got some of his backpack done. Got some more of his. Got some more coloring, some more shading done on him. Probably more than I need to, but I'm having fun working on him. So I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna keep trying to get things done with him, and we'll see how it goes today. That's purple. I don't need purple. I need dark brown, and I need black because I'm gonna go ahead and paint in some shadows while I'm thinking about it. So I did a little bit more painting over the weekend, and I got all of my Votan infantry speed painted, and now they're, for all intents and purposes, done, with the exception of like dry brushing them and hitting them all with a wash to make sure that the colors blend together as effectively as possible. But I found out afterwards that I missed I missed painting one of them, and I missed basing one of them, and I now need to print a whole another base just for a single model. And I feel silly, but that's okay. I'll get that done. I can probably get that done later on this evening after I finish streaming. And my goodness, I'm tired. I apologize. And it's a really minor thing. It'll be good to go. So right now, I'm just going to continue working on this guy. I don't know how long I'm going to stream this afternoon, this evening, this whatever time it is, because my wife is out of town. She is going to a career day thing for a teacher friend, so she gets to talk about being an independent artist and all the benefits of doing so and all the cool stuff there. So I hope she has a very, very good career day tomorrow, but it also means that I don't have really a time frame to go upstairs until I guess I get hungry for dinner. Yeah, I don't really know. But either way, it's gonna be fine. I'm just gonna go ahead and keep working on this guy. And I'm getting to the part now where that I've gotten most of the big details. So it's now on me to start hitting some of the smaller things that I otherwise hadn't noticed or just kind of put off because they weren't super important. Like the shadows in this backpack, which is what I'm doing right now. And what I hope is that just by kind of free forming it and hitting stuff where I'd like to, I'm just gonna go ahead and eventually hit it all. Now what I should have done, because I completely neglected to, is I should have went ahead and taken some notes as to how I made some of these colors. Because to be completely honest, I have no clue how I made some of these colors. So, I suppose I'll find out later. But right now, it's not super important. I think I'm going to hit the khaki trim around the straps just a little bit more because the layer that I put them in, the one layer of paint came through a little thin. But yeah, as I've mentioned before, these are essentially statues, like desk display statues for a friend and his D&D group. He is playing online with a bunch of people and wanted to know if I could print and paint some Hero Forge models for him. So I offered to do so, and he's going to pay me, which is cool, and then he's going to have me ship them all off. Which I kind of thought I was going to ship them to him, but from what it sounds like, he wants me to ship them directly to the individuals who created these characters. And so that's kind of neat. I'm pretty jazzed about that. It'll get my name out there and maybe get more people to want to commission me, and I can make more money. Because as we all know, making money is nice. Unfortunately, I'm very tired. This weekend was my birthday, and it left me very, very groggy and sleepy. So I kind of had to sleepwalk through today at work, though I don't think anyone really noticed. And now I'm just kind of chilling. This is way too wet. As you can probably tell, I think I might have over-wet my palette, so this stuff is not drying as effectively as I would like. Yeah, I'm just leaving puddles everywhere, and that's not helpful to anyone. So, I'm gonna go ahead and hit all this again and see what I can do about translucency that's happening. That should be fine, I think, for now. Eventually, I'm going to have to paint his skin color, and I'm really not sure what to do there. It looks kind of like a purplish gray, so I think that's what I'm going to have to mix. And I think I'm going to have to go back into the Hero Forge proper to figure out how to do these little arm bracelets that he has on, arm bracers. Because outside of that, and basing him, he's very close to done, which I'm pretty happy to say. It looks also like he's got some darkness to that headband. His hair color is a dark brown, which should be easy enough. Yeah, this shouldn't be too bad. He's approaching doneness, and that's kind of neat. So I'm looking forward to hitting that point full stop. I think what I'm going to do, though, since I have the paint color out, is I'm going to go ahead and paint his stave. His walking stick, his staff, his magical focus, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Because it definitely is a slightly darker black than everything else, which is not a problem. But since I'm working with not darker black, darker brown than everything else, which is not a problem since I'm working with a dark brown right now. So now seems like an ideal time to hit this guy, to hit this thing with the color. Now there's probably a faster, more efficient way to work on this stuff, and I guarantee you some really, really good professional painter probably has a better system. But I just kind of work with the paints that I have out, and sometimes that pushes me into a corner, because I'll end up painting details before I paint the main bits. But it all works out in the end. Okay, and it looks like that's a slightly darker color, so I think I can go more black with that. And then as we go back up, oh no, that's a purple. Okay, so no, that's going to be a purple. And if that's the case, I actually am just going to finish this off with a black as a base, and when it dries, I'll fix it later with another color. But for now, it'll be easier for me to lean into the mistake and adjust later. And the rest of it looks like it's the same kind of brown color as the rest of the model. So what's happening, and this is just a way I do this. This is not necessarily the right way, and I've seen other people do it different ways, is I start with my darkest color and kind of work my way up for the shade until it becomes a highlight. And like I said, I've seen other people do different. They've gone more with like a mid-tone, and then they'll work their way down and work their way up from the mid-tone. But that doesn't feel comfortable for me right now, and I'm not very comfortable doing it, so I'm going to stick with the method I kind of taught myself via trying to practice non-metallic metal. And until that method fails me, or until I feel more comfortable doing something else, that's what I'm going to stick with. Now, the good news is this is going to be a very, very easy mini to brighten up and highlight, because as far as I can tell, with how textured everything is on this guy, I'm just going to need to dry brush the heck out of it. And once I do that, I can kind of go back over the parts that aren't the right color and hit them with the lavender color that it looks like the wrappings are. So this will help get it to where it needs to be. And then the dry brush will help highlight the parts that need to be highlighted. And then the lavender will allow it to hit it with the lavender cloths. So it's all going to work out fine, except for the fact that I accidentally dumped a whole bunch of water into it because it's stuck in the ferrule. That's annoying, but it'll be fine. So I apparently forgot to change audiences last time because I was working on the Puma a few sessions ago, and I guess I made mine Among Us, which turned out to be the wrong one. Or not Among Us, that was when I was working on my Among Us boys. And so for the last couple of sessions, that's been the wrong one. I should have been in either Warhammer or D&D. So I finally switched it back over, and hopefully now everything's okay. And I will be honest, I don't know why for the life of me I thought it would be a good idea to try and get into a secondary hobby that required even more talking after spending all day talking. So it looks like whatever fruit he's giving him is purple, which should work out pretty nicely. I guess the next thing for me to do would be some more metallic paints. Maybe the skin? I think it's finally time I hit the skin. I'm going to go ahead and tackle the skin on this guy. So, it looks like it's going to be a light gray with kind of a purple depth to it. So, I might try two things. The first thing I think I'm going to try is hitting him all over with this light gray. And then, I don't know, maybe the Druchii Violet is too dark. Maybe what I'll do instead, it'll hit him with a violet-gray mix to hopefully flatten out the violet. And then, if I feel like the shadows aren't conveying enough, maybe hit it with a wash? Though, to be honest, at that point, I'm more beholden to the idea of hitting it with a heavier shadow and actually just lining it myself. So I suppose we'll find out if this works very shortly. Because this needs to be a very, very muted lavender. Is what it looks like to me. So that's what I am going to go for. I think I might need more gray. That purple is just so overpowering. So I'm going to add some more gray to that. Makes a chunky amount more gray. Stir that in a little more violently. And see how this goes. Now I can't even tell anymore. It might work. Might be good. And then when I highlight it, I'll highlight it with a brighter, probably a white gray. And that should definitely have a good look. So, we'll see. We will see. What I'm going to do right now, though, is grab some of this gray, throw it on there. This gray purple. This purple gray. It's almost like a pink. And now, because it's so watered down because of how I effed up the wet palette, it is almost clear, which is not what I want. I almost feel like maybe it wouldn't have been a bad idea to give him a zenithal with a very clear, pale gray. And that might have gotten me to the right color, because this, it's not looking off, but it's definitely looking more blocked than I wanted it to. And it's ruining a lot of that shading that I was doing. So we'll see how that ends up looking out. You can see what I mean. The shoulder has definitely lost a lot of definition, and because there's so much gloss, since it's wet, it's reflecting and losing even more definition via the lighting. So we'll have to see how this all looks when it's all said and done. What's driving me nuts right now is just how incredibly annoying the wet palette is being. Because I seem to have oversaturated everything, and now the wet palette is fighting me every step of this way in terms of trying to get a smooth coat, because it's way too waterlogged. I guess the good news is that painting the plum or the fruit or whatever is in his hand will not be difficult, because it will be almost entirely purple. So the color is not going to be far off from what I'm already using. I will say, I gotta give a lot of credit to the sculptors. They did a bang-up job making him cradle this thing in a convincing manner. Let's go ahead and hit that. And I guess the good news is that I can be a little sloppier here because it's going to end up getting covered anyway. This I might actually use some of the Druchii Violet on to fix some of the deeper creases inside the hand that I can't hit right now. Okay. Oh, good. I suppose it's not a bad thing that the purple-gray is starting to... That was really dumb of me. The purple-gray is really starting to dry out, and it's really letting the undertones sing a bit more, which will also help me with finding the shadows. I guess the problem is the wet palette is just way too saturated. Okay, so... No, get off there. So I think I mentioned this last time, but I finished Echoes of Eternity, and it was an absolute banger of a book. And right now I'm making my way through the end and the death. And I gotta say, it is written in a completely different way. Dan Abnett definitely had ideas on how he was going to finish out the Horus Heresy. And so he's not, you know, playing it restrained. He has come out with both barrels and is definitely enjoying having a little more experimental artistic freedom on how he wants to present this story. And I am for it because it's right now making for a very compelling, if not completely structured read. Because up until the most recent chapter, we really haven't heard from a continuous narrative voice yet. So if at any point you're interested in reading the Horus Heresy or any Warhammer fiction, that is definitely a good place to start. Well, not a good place to start, but this is definitely a book that'll make you happy. Because he's been a writer of theirs for a long time, and you can clearly see it in how comfortable he is just writing about this world and about the characters. Okay, let's go ahead and put that in there. Remnant of Chaos asks Firbolg. Yes, I believe it is. It's a Firbolg druid based on the face. I'm right now kind of fighting the paint because I accidentally did such a darn good job with my Zenithal priming that everything else is looking a little washed out because of me trying to get this more flat, you know, lavender look that the model has. So I'm trying my best to hit all the spots, and I'll go back and probably darken up some of the spots that clearly are in shadow, like his chest right here. But I also oversaturated my wet palette when I first started, and so I'm fighting the moisture of my wet palette as well. No, these are not my characters. This is for a commission that I'm doing. I've got a friend who plays online with some people, and I did one of these for one of his characters, and he liked it so much, he came back around a few weeks ago and started asking, hey, would I mind doing a commission for a couple of his friends' pieces? And not necessarily to play on the table, but to have as, like, desk caddies. So that's what I'm kind of doing. And actually, now that this is drying out, I really do like this color as a skin color because I can still see the translucency of the shading underneath. So my character, my principal character that I've wanted to play for a while and I haven't had a chance is a Kenku Mage, or a Kenku Wizard. And I've been DM more than I've been PC, and so I haven't had a whole lot of time to play him. I've done one for all my D&D characters, never bought the STL file though. That tends to be the case. I've got a friend who has a Hero Forge account that has dozens and dozens of characters, but he's never printed them. And especially with the pandemic hitting, that seems to have been, you know, the big thing. Is like, we're not going to play in person, but I'd still like to have a manifestation of my concept, right? So this is way too big to be tabletop playable, which is fine because it's super neato. Hey Snow Twig, how's it going? But it sounds like he wants to get these as gifts for his friends. So I'm trying to paint them up to at least a semi-competent look, and then I'm going to work on getting the shadows down because they're clearly much darker than what I'm doing right now. The character's looking good, thank you. Yeah, how was your weekend? You do anything fun? You do anything interesting? You do anything exciting? Do anything that made you happy? Okay, there we go. That's a bit more uniform to the color I want. But yeah, no, I just haven't found someone who will DM regularly enough to actually play that character. And the two places where I have been able to play as a player versus playing as a DM, it was for my wife, who was very new to DMing. It was her first time ever. And so I suggested that she keep it very simple and only do the player's handbook races and classes. So I wasn't able to play my character there. And the other person has been working on this world that he was super excited about for a long time, but he explicitly told us, don't play as characters you've already played in other games or other one-shots or anything that you've played with me, because I plan on doing something with that. And since I already played as my character in the one-shot, couldn't play as him there. So the only two semi-long-term games that I was able to do, couldn't play the character for mechanical or lore reasons. So I'm not going to be able to play this character ever. This one is not mine. Just worked mostly on 3D stuff. Small group of bees raided my living room from the fireplace. That sounds horrifying, and I hate that information. I'm very sorry that happened. Hopefully you got rid of them. I have mild insectophobia. And when I was very young, I got stung by a bee, and it scared the crap out of me. And so ever since then, I've been very, very cautious and worried about bees. Specifically wasps and hornets. Bumblebees less so, because they're just cute and stupid, like my dog. So they don't bother me much. But not bumblebees, wasps and hornets, I'm not fond of, and I try and stay away from. Speaking of, last night I was down here grabbing some laundry before I went to bed, and we have a little table next to the washer dryer, like a fold-out table that you would use for picnicking or camping or whatever. And underneath it was the fattest or largest hornet. We got them all out safely. We thought they were wasps at first. Well, that's fair, because bees are just kind of trying to do their own thing. Wasps are assholes, if I remember right. So I'm happy you were able to avoid having to kill them. But I found crawling underneath the table like the fattest wasp or hornet or whatever I had ever seen. And since I am not well versed in identification, I just assumed it was bad. And I knew it wasn't a bee because it was it had the segmented thing. So I sprayed the heck out of it with a certain insect killer that I have, and then I stomped the shit out of it. And then I took its body and brought it upstairs in not an ashtray, one of those sweeping trays you use for brooms, right? And told my wife, hey, can you come down here real quick? I need to show you something because I'm not sure what it is. I can't tell if it's a wasp or a hornet, but it's really big. And she wouldn't come down the stairs. She saw it sitting in the dustpan from where she was and refused to come downstairs. So I'm assuming it wasn't good, because to her it looked like a big friggin' wasp. And so I threw it outside, and my hope is I never have to see them again, because I thoroughly sprayed the rest of the house out of sheer paranoia. Yeah, it was large. It was almost the size of my thumb. Probably not, but it felt like it. I know, right? It was really big. I almost felt like we gotta move out. We can't live here anymore. This place is cursed. But that's not what happened, so that's good, I suppose. But yeah, I'm not a fan of insects. Like spiders, I don't like spiders. I'll try my best to save them, but I'm not above killing them, and I feel kind of bad about that because generally spiders are not terrible things. But bees and wasps and the like, I can't deal with them. Big scaredy cat. Will run and crush. Speaking of, when I first moved into this house, we have a detached garage in the backyard. And one of the things that got me about it was my wife noticed that there were a bunch of hornets kind of flying in and out of the little... I don't even know what to call it. It's like an octagonal vented window in the center at the top. I'm glad you do, because someone needs to love them. They're important to our ecosystem and our environment, but unfortunately that someone is not me. I kind of wish that I had taken a picture of it, because then I could have shown it to you, and you could have told me, no, that was just XYZ, you have nothing to be afraid of. And then I wouldn't be terrified of the fact that I killed one, and my understanding is that if you kill one, they send out a pheromone to say, this place is dangerous, and whoever lives here needs to die. Haven't mosquitoes been proven to be, like, completely unnecessary? I know they carry malaria and a bunch of other things, but haven't they also been proven to be, like, biologically unnecessary or something? I legitimately don't know. I think that I've heard that somewhere. Beautiful. So I'm not wrong, and I feel even less bad about killing them. Ow, I just rolled my freaking elbow. My point, they need to go. Yep. They are the floating plastic bag of insects. Except they're evil bastards and need to die. But yeah, I don't like the fact that me potentially killing that thing made the situation much worse. But I guess the good news is nothing came out of the woodwork to try and kill me. And I sprayed very thoroughly everywhere I could. And it didn't seem like there was suddenly a huge entourage of buzzing to end my life. So I'm assuming everything's okay. Because I've not seen nor heard anything. I'm trying to make my current character in Hero Forge, but I can't seem to find the right gear. Yeah, Hero Forge is great, and I love it, but that is always the worst, is when you're looking for a specific set of gear to fit, like, your idea or your costume or whatever, and you just can't. Question is how to get in. I know, right? I'm wondering what part of the house it entered in, and I really don't want to know, but at the same time I want to know. So like I said, that's why I sprayed the shit out of everything on that side of the house. Is hopefully that bug repellent will do at least a half-decent job of telling them, you know, no bueno, don't come in here. But I don't know, and honestly I don't want to know, and I don't want it to be anywhere near my dang house again. But we'll see, I suppose. I will see very soon, because if I start seeing more, then I know it's time to burn the house down. Because I'm not living with that. I will legit... Actually, no, I'll just call it an exterminator at that point. But I don't really want to dwell on it too much, because it makes me very anxious. You know what I mean? I am what they call baby. I'm a big baby when it comes to this stuff. Which is weird, because I used to work outside a lot. I used to work in remodeling and construction. So being around insects is not exactly new. It's just I don't like being around them. Okay, is this going to be... Or am I just going to have to glaze this on ever so gently over and over again until I get the color that I want? Because that clearly did not cover up that darker. So, I don't know, I don't remember how much either of you guys know about painting, but I'm trying, or miniature painting, but I'm trying to learn how to glaze, and it's to middling success because I'm just clearly not patient enough. where, you know, you take the wet paint and you kind of blend it over the dry paint into a border so that the seam between the two is a lot more subtle. I'm really bad at that, and I'm trying to get better, but it's hard and I'm not good at it. My room's always been a favorite for bug attacks, ladybugs, bees, wasps. I think there's a hole in the bricks from my window. That's how they get in. That sucks, and I hate that story. I'm really sorry. I hope that you eventually find wherever the problem is and you're able to deal with it. I live in a house that is close to 80 years old, which is not super old by most standards, but in the United States, it's not very kosherized because it has a lot of outdated plumbing and construction. So I honest to goodness have no idea where the dang thing got in. And like I said, I'm not too keen on finding out. If I do find it, I can at least plug the hole. Oh, I was telling a story about the garage. So yeah, he sees that they're flying in and out of that window in the garage at the very top, in between the two bay doors. And so I go in there to check where the heck are they going to, and I see what looks like a ring of death of hornets' nests inside the grating, in the gap between the I don't know what it's called, the slatted window and the frame that the slatted window fits into. And there's just hornets everywhere, and there are wasps everywhere. I don't know the difference. I don't really want to. I just know one's much more of a belligerent asshole than the other. But either way, I decide that can't stand. So we immediately go out and I buy one of those like 30-foot wasp sprays. And I did quite possibly the dumbest thing in my life. And I went out there in the garage, and I told my wife to hold open the kitchen door because it led to the little driveway between the garage and the back door, and to open it as soon as I start running in that direction. And so, yeah, you know is correct. And so I go in there, and I hold up the spray bottle, the spray can, and I hit it with just like a flood of the chemicals that they use. And as soon as I do, I immediately just run because I start seeing the wasps like make their way out in alarm, but they're also getting stuck because of the fluids and the suds in there, which is preventing them from flying. So I make a mad dash back to my house, and we just kind of wait it out and see, did I get them? And once we see that none of them are coming after me, surprisingly not, it worked out really well. I'm really scared of going back up there and removing the honeycombs. Not the honeycombs, the nest stuff, because they definitely weren't bees. But it's been a graveyard ever since. I think last year they tried to rebuild it, and I did the same thing, and it ended up working out okay. We haven't had a wasp issue or a hornets issue since then. At least not there. We found them trying to build a nest underneath our power grid, our power meter, our electric meter thing that they hook up to your house. And so I did kind of the same thing. I sprayed the bejesus out of that, and haven't had a problem there either. But yeah, I hate bugs. Not a fan. Whenever I can help it, I will save them and gently put them outside, but if they're anywhere near my house, I immediately become more hostile to them. Sounds like a good job for a bomb disposal bot. I know, right? I kind of feel like I should just get like a match and use the wasp spray and just spray it like a flamethrower. Just burn it all out. The garage is not attached to the house. No one's gonna care. And then I realized that it's underneath a giant tree, and that's a terrible idea. So don't worry, there is no chance of me burning down the house or the garage, because I know better. As much as I wish I didn't, I know better. But yeah, very unfond of all that stuff. And so when I saw how big is that model compared to a standard Warhammer model, well, right now, Give me a second. Here's a Sister of Battle model. So yeah, fairly large. I think compared to its original D&D size, it's 300, or it's 3 times the size. It is a large lad. And like I said, it's meant to be more of a desk caddy than anything. So, I'm just trying to paint it to be fun to look at. Like, he's actually not paying me too much per model, given how much time and effort I'm going to put into it. But, it's going to be enough to make it worth my while, and enough to make it worth his while. But yeah, this is a large boy. And that's kind of the fun about the Hero Forge models, though, is that I can size them to any size I want. And even though they do have some fairly chunky bits to them, they read well at almost any size. So you don't have to worry too much about enlarging them and them looking goofy. They actually look really good at a larger size. Okay. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more black in there so I can get more separation between the fingers. I mean, if someone wanted to play large-scale D&D, I suppose they could, but I don't see why they'd want to. This feels like it would take up more. It would take up like an actual Warhammer picnic table versus, you know, a 2 or 3 foot space. I think something like that. Though admittedly, that would be fun. It'd be like those guys who played a Kill Team game using the McFarlane Necrons, which are much larger than the Warhammer scale ones. Okay. I feel like I'm overdoing this by trying to panel, or not panel line, but dark line everything. I probably should just go ahead and water down the wash that I have, and just run the wash across everything now that he's this far done. Because like I said, he's actually not paying me for this detailed job. I'm just doing it because it's fun. Though I will say, this is definitely going to help me better understand skin, because I'm still learning how to do like volumetric lighting on a lot of these guys, and so things like skin elude me. And hopefully, by playing around with this a little bit, I can kind of get a better grasp of the highs and lows of volumetric lighting, and that'll help make my models look even better in the future. I'd also argue that it's probably a little harder to pull off on larger models, because they have so much more surface area. It's easier to see when you do it wrong. You know what I mean? So hopefully, this will all look okay. I think I got real lucky living in the southern United States, though, because, or at least where I do live, because we don't actually have any truly big, terrifying, fauna. You know what I mean? Most of the big, scary things are either further south or, in other parts of the country. It seems like the worst thing that we have in Virginia is like a brown recluse spider. Though that could just be me trying not to scare the crap out of myself and actively ignoring other things that are more terrifying. But if that's the case, I think I'm happy in my ignorance. I don't know, it's like that meme that you hear all the time about, with the most dangerous animal we have is a wasp. Well, wasps are friggin' dangerous and terrifying. I'd count that. I don't like them. I think one of my favorite stories is, it's in Japan, right, where a bunch of bees like actively let a wasp into their nest, and when the wasp got in there, they all kind of dogpiled on him and vibrated. We don't have bears, mountain lions, wolves, cougars, etc. We got bears, but they're the big dopey kind, So they're not exactly terrifying. They're kind of they're the kind that if you like put your arms up and yell, they run away because you're too big to be dealt with. You're too much of a bother. So we've got those kind of bears, and the worst thing they do is go through your garbage, which is not terrible, I guess. So yeah, I suppose it's all the scale, right? Different for everyone. I live next to the Shenandoah Mountains, and honestly, I don't really know what's up there, but my understanding is it's nothing horrifically threatening, so I think we're okay. I don't know how I feel about, like, the shoulder gap that I did there. I feel like I want to blend it out more. Like I said, what I may end up doing, just to make life easier, is I may end up just going over to the, wash, because it's there, it's easier, it'll look fine. But I'll figure it out. I guess the good news is he doesn't have too many contours, so I don't have to worry too much about his color showing through. And that paint on his face does not look great because it all got watered down and washed out. And I suppose the other good news is that it's a light color, so if I end up going over it too much, I can very easily just paint over it. So what is your guys' favorite D&D characters that you've played? Because I know you were asking me earlier, is this your character? And I told you, nope, definitely not my character. But haven't really talked about D&D characters that you're personally fond of. Because that's kind of the fun of D&D, right? Is being able to have a lot of fun showing off your imagination and who you've created. So I'm curious, hit me with your favorite characters you've made. Because one thing I have realized I like about D&D is just hearing about how the creativity involved allows people to create such very drastically different people. Different heroes and all that fun stuff. Returning to an original character after a 2-year break, as the DM had personal stuff going on. That's fair. I'm glad you're able to return to him, though. Because, you know, some of the first characters we make are some of the ones we're most attached to, I feel. I have a Dragonborn Paladin that I made in 4th edition that I've only gotten to use like 3 times, and, him, I'm kind of happy he's gone. I think the original is my favorite. Yep. I'm glad to hear you getting to play him again, then. That's always the best. So what kind of character would this be? I'm not sure what to do with a lot of this, because I gotta build up his skin tone, but especially since the face is one of the more bit edgy. He's a Plague Doctor, Wizard, Necromancer. No, that sounds about right. That's kind of why people play Plague Doctors, right? They want to play a character that has that kind of macabre, you know, interest in the dead. I don't know. It doesn't seem any more edgy than some of the other things I've heard people play in the D&D. Finding players and DMs are impossible. Wanting to play a wild magic sorcerer. Like his story, though, I adore his personality. That's very cool. I'm sorry that you're having a hard time finding people to play and DM with, Snow Twig. You're right, though. It is very difficult, and part of the reason why DMs are in such high demand is because it's a lot of work. You know, I'm a school teacher, and I feel like to some extent, a good DM has to do as much prep work as a good school teacher, and D&D can be. It doesn't have to be. It can be a lot like doing lesson plans. and trying to figure out how time will be filled. And it doesn't have to. Like, there are definitely D&D games that are a lot more fly by the seat of your pants, and they're just kind of a pretzel and beer type thing, if you like that food. But it definitely can lend itself to having a very big dynamic game if your DM is so inclined. And yeah, wild magic sorcerers can be a lot of fun because you'll never know what happens when they use a wild magic surge. Yeah, no, I made a little Plague Doctor character myself, too, once I found out that you could in, Hero Forge. Because I've always liked Plague Doctors as well. But I just really haven't had a chance to play them, and haven't really been too interested in doing it, because I can't really think of a way to play a Plague Doctor in a fun way. You know, the motivation and the character motivation's not there. Most of the time, if you want to play, you got DM and organizers. Yeah, tell me about it. I haven't been a forever DM, but I've basically I've DM'd a lot more than I've actually played, and it's gotten to the point where I actually don't feel comfortable as the player, because I'm not sure how to be the player anymore. I've never really been sure how to be the player because I've been the DM so often. So I definitely get your I definitely kind of get what you're pick up what you're putting down there. The only thing you can really hope is that you eventually inspire someone so much that they decide they want to give DMing a try, because they realize they can create their own world through it. And then you can kind of give them the mantle. And then before they know it, they've got on the cloak and the wizard hat, and you're laughing as you're rolling up your new character because now they're stuck doing it. Nah, I'm kidding. But more to the point is just that DMs are definitely in much greater demand than players, you know? It's really easy to get a group of people who want to play. It's really hard to get someone who's willing to plan out each game. I actually considered for a while offering up my services as like a side job. Short story: worked as a doctor, then a plague ravaged his city. His mentor kept it a secret that Faust, my character's best friend, who was basically a sister, was also sick. She died, and as Faust can't accept that, he started to dabble into necromancy to try and bring her back. That's a really good tragic story, and it lends itself really nicely to some great character moments and character growth. I think my favorite thing about that story is that how like tragic and emotionally involved it is. So it allows you to have some great moments of crisis with your character as to, you know, are they going to do the thing that might help bring their sister back, or are they going to betray the party to get this information? There's a lot of neat stuff there. And unfortunately for me, all I can think of is Felden of the Third Path from Magic the Gathering, and how he basically does that. He dabbles in like artifact magic to try and bring his wife back, which allows him to bring back any artifact creature from the graveyard. And so all I can imagine is him being like, is this my wife? Ah, worm coil engine. Well, I tried. But yeah, that's the real fun of this stuff, is that you get to create stories like that, and as long as the DM is skillful enough or flexible enough, you'll get to work that into the game, and you'll get to see whether or not that character actually gets to do that. And sometimes you don't need to have characters that are that complex. You can have a character who's just there to have fun and give the DM something to bounce off of. And that's also an incredibly valid way to play. Our group has a book club where we can write short novels if we want for our characters. I wrote 2 pages of Faust's medical notebook during his time as a doctor. It's just a small 2 to 3 line sentences each day for roughly a month, but it gives a really good view into his psyche and where he comes from. Yeah. It's the ability to take ownership of characters. That highlight actually ended up being pretty darn good. That makes D&D so great, you know? And so I'm glad that it's able to give you such a great place to flex your creativity. I just about jumped out of my seat when I saw Doigan Swift getting a chance to play, given how little they have played D&D. And also watching Onsta kind of do her best, because I don't think I've ever seen her in a situation where she was uncomfortable. So watching her have fun trying to very enthusiastically figure out D&D was an absolute great time. And I hope that they manage to have more time to do that together. There we go. I'm probably going to have to paint that back over because, unfortunately, like I've mentioned before, the white, the water, the wet palette is so waterlogged that I'm having a hard time controlling it. And so, like, the right eye, the one that I wasn't just working on, is completely flooded with water and paint pigment. So I'm going to have to wait for that to dry and see what happens. And in the meantime, I'm going to have to very carefully balance out what's going on here. Because quite clearly I'm having some issues with kind of the same thing, where the paint has managed to spill out of the little eye hole. What I started doing, oh, well that actually, okay, it dried out, it dried down just like I wanted it to. Nice. What I actually started doing for my players, and this was a way to preserve my sanity, was I made it their job to write down what happened each session. And at the beginning of the next session, they would kind of roll dice, and whoever rolled the lowest had to explain what happened in the previous session. And that allowed players to A, be a more active participant in remembering the story, and B, let me see their perspective so that way I could figure out what did I miss. You know what I mean? If I got to see how they were seeing it, it really told me what was important to them and the things they noticed versus the things I noticed, right? So it was a neat thought experiment, and it seems to have worked out pretty well because it also means now I don't have to remember all that crap. So I don't remember where I read to do that though. Someone suggested it. It was either like the Dungeon Dudes or it was one of the other guys who does D&D content. And I don't remember who it was, but it was one of the best pieces of advice I had ever been given. Unfortunately, I have this problem where I get into this really cool, what I think is a really cool idea, and I get really excited about it, and it's a concept that I want to try, and I'm enjoying it, and it's because I'm working towards an end game, you know what I mean? I have an idea where I want the players to go, and I want them to have a specific experience, and then I don't really think about how they're going to get there other than the broad strokes. So eventually, I kind of run out of steam because they get to a certain spot in the meantime, and I'm like, okay, how do I get them out of this situation? Or how do I work it so that this will eventually take them here? And I think what ends up happening is I end up kind of running before I can walk, and so I get lost in the plot, and then I get stressed out about the game, and then I kind of peter out. And so I've had a couple games kind of end that way, where I just ran out of inspiration. And that really sucks. I hate doing that, and I've tried not to. We've been playing a game recently that's gone on and off for like 3 years now, I think. Uh-oh, I lost my pen. Not my pen, my brush. And it hasn't been going regularly, but because of people's conflicting schedules and the like, but we've been playing the same characters, going through the same campaign for about 3 years. And I think my favorite part of it so far is that they've been in the Underdark now for like a year and a half. They all ventured down there due to something disastrous happening and them realizing they needed to go down there. And it devolved into something bigger. And unfortunately, they haven't left yet because we've been playing so irregularly. So it feels like the Dragon Ball Z thing where the characters have been on Namek for too long, or in Guts when they won't get off the damn boat. or Berserk, that's what it's called, I'm sorry. And so that's been humorous, but at the same time it's kind of annoying because I want them to get out, but at the same time I'm struggling with how am I going to get them out. And I finally came up with a how that's going to happen, but one of my friends got a new job, which meant he didn't have the weekends anymore. And my other friend has a job where he is exhausted by the end of the day during the weekday. You know, Fridays or Monday through Friday. So, and his schedule's otherwise busy. So, we're kind of at a standstill. And eventually we'll break it. But right now, and the worst part is they're at a big boss fight too. They've been dealing with some Drow Duergar politics. And in the world that I'm playing, the Duergar or the Drow aren't necessarily evil, and neither are the Duergar. I'm not playing in proper Forgotten Realms lore or D&D lore because I don't care. But they're not evil per se. So they have some politicking going on where they're at war, and they're not really sure why. One of them, the Duergar, just suddenly became hyper aggressive, and so they were about to unravel the thing and figure out what was going on and fight the big boss. And that was like 4 months ago, and we haven't played since. So they've been stuck at that moment now for like 4 months. Because one of the friends got a new job. So hopefully we'll be able to get back into it. Yeah, it is kind of an ouchy moment. But thankfully, it's given me a lot of time to dwell on it, think about it, so I feel a lot more confident in ending this arc than I did when they got to the boss fight. So while I do feel kind of bad that they managed to get all the way to this thing that, once again, took them a long time to get to, I feel less bad because I've had more time to really mull it around and come up with an ending that I think will be, you know, rewarding. And then we can finally get out from the dang Underdark and deal with a Troll King and his horde that has been besieging their city basically since they went to the Underdark. So I've had a running joke with my wife, who's part of this group, that when they get back up there, the Troll King will have taken the city because they took too damn long. And that made her very upset because they spent like 6 months trying to build the city up. So it's like I'm causing feel-bads all around, and I feel no remorse for it. But it's okay. I think my favorite thing about the game so far has been that one of my friends, the one who ended up being unable to play due to time constraints and new schedule, is he created a character, and this was with, you know, DM permission. Yes, it is a huge D&D mini. This is it's a commission piece. It's not really meant to be a mini. It's meant to be more of like a statue caddy for or like a desk caddy for a friend of a friend. He's commissioned me to do 3 of these. So I'm just kind of trying to work my way through them. And hopefully make them good enough that they're happy with them. Because I did one for him a while ago and he really liked it. So he's asked if I could do these for some of his friends. And yes, I am getting paid a substantial amount. And they're going to look great when they're done, hopefully. And everyone's going to love them and we'll be happy. Woohoo. But this is a very lored D&D mini. I think I've mentioned it before on stream today, but by scale, I think I just tripled his size. And hit him at like 300%, and then tilted him back, hit him with some supports, and said, okay, he's fit to print. So he is a large man. But he's going to be a good-looking mini when he's all done. Hopefully. So how are you doing, Mr. Motorhead? I feel like it's been a little while since I've seen you. Right now I'm struggling a little because I'm kind of fighting my lighting and the brightness of the paint job. And it's making it a bit difficult to figure out where the shadows should go versus where they shouldn't. But by and large, I think he's turning out all right. Though I also kind of get the feeling that I should have just hit him with a wash and then a highlight and called it a day, and that I'm working way too hard on this lad. Actually, give me a second. I think I need to go find him again real quick so I can decide. Hey, Strata Miniatures, it's good to see you again. I don't think I've seen you in a while. How are you doing? I'm working on this guy, and right now I'm doing some research because for the life of me, I don't remember what color his eyes are. So, Dorp the Goodberry Friend Cop is apparently his name. And so I'm going to go ahead and check him out real quick. See what color those eyes are, and that will give me a better ability to paint them in. Oh, they're kind of a light brown. So I think if I mix some of this khaki with some of that, and then hopefully don't screw this up too bad. That's actually not too terrible. Unfortunately, I think I made it so that he's going to be a little wall-eyed. Just a little bit wall-eyed. A whole lot less wall-eyed. Oh man. I'd need to get some better brushes for this. I'm using a hooked tip Citadel brush to try and paint eyes. What is wrong with me? It's just like, okay, you're trying, it's okay, you're trying your best. You can always chop your end and reform it with a razor blade. That is true. I'm not sure how well it would work with some of these because after a while the body just becomes too much. I don't know. I've never actually done it, so I'm not going to knock it. If I remember right, though, you were one who was giving me some really good advice on brush care, so I think I can trust you. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, I used to do that with pinstripe brushes. Yeah, that definitely isn't a bad idea. I think my other big problem, though, is just that I am apparently uncommonly abusive to brushes, so... There's that. Oh man, he looks a special type of psychotic now. But, that too. Okay, well I guess that's about as good as it's gonna look for now. One moment, I need to look to see it. I need to look at his teeth. Oh, you do have teeth, and it looks like you have lips too. Lips are a little bit pinker. I think I can manage that. I don't know. I've got some Winsor & Newton brushes. I've got a number 1 that is essentially completely unopened, and to be honest, I'm kind of terrified to use it because I really don't want the thing to die on me after like a month's worth of abuse. Though, I am painting quite often, so I'm probably just accelerating the thing's demise with how often I have been painting. And so instead, I've just been using these Citadel brushes that I found, that I bought years ago, and then completely forgot about. Thankfully, I don't think I spent a lot of money on them. And if I did, it's long gone anyway. Hey Isaac, how's it going? Use the Winsor & Newton brush, it's much better. Yeah, I know, but I don't. Sorry for the shrillness, but I really don't. I had a number 1 Winsor & Newton that I was using for a while, and it was fantastic until I beat the crap out of it, and now it's basically worthless to me. So I've been using a bunch of budget brushes until I feel like I've really needed a Winsor & Newton. And since this is more gross kind of work, I've been fine with it. So, once again, Isaac, hello, how you doing? What's going on with you? This is way too watery. I'm messing this up. You know what? I'm at a point. I'll go ahead and try the Winsor & Newton. Let's see, where'd you go? Make sure you clean it and don't overfill the belly. It will last you about a year. Yeah, that's kind of how I was using it. My problem was, and I think we've talked about this before, is just I've been ridiculously abusive to how I've cleaned it. And so because I was so rough on the bristles, it was just causing all sorts of problems. Oh, that is a much finer tip than I'm used to anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. And so that's where I was having problems, is that I was beating the tar out of the brush, and that was causing the bristles to get pulled out. Oh my goodness, this is also almost like a pencil mustache. There we go. There we go. That's considerably better. Yeah, no, one of the things I learned a long time ago is not to let it get filled past about that mark. And, it seems to work a little better, but let me see if I can find it. Did I end up throwing it away? I think I threw away the old one just because it was so badly beaten up. But it was about half the size of the a brand new Winsor & Newton brush. So I was just very, very concerned. I didn't even realize that it had shrunk so much until I pulled out the new one. And I think it's when I compared them on like the live stream that I realized, oh, that's why the bristles have died out, because I've just beat the crap out of the brush. And that's what's caused it to be so bloody miserable. Man, I forgot how nice it was to have a precision tip. I also do kind of feel to some use if you want some of the cheaper brushes to if you want some cheaper brushes to abuse, check out Rosemary & Company. That's not a bad idea. Like I said, for the most part, the reason I've been using the Citadel ones is because I have them. Hey Red, how's it going? Still working on this commission bit, still trying to figure it out. Still trying to get it done. Let's mix that purple in with the black. Let's get this down to a darker color. And then we'll bring it back up from the darker purple into a lighter color. Yeah, I'll definitely look at Rosemary & Company as an alternate cheap brush when I finish beating the heck out of the Citadel brushes I have left over. Because I feel like the Citadel brushes haven't been bad, they just don't last very long. Even though I have been trying to take much better care of them. There we go. That's gonna be fine. How have you been doing, Red? How's it going? How was your weekend? How was your day? How was all of those? How was all of the things? Okay. That looks like it'll work, okay? And there, now we have a purple. And I can go, actually, you know what? I may be able to hit it down even darker. And then kind of build it back up where the light's hitting it. I may be. Yeah, that's more like it. That's what I was looking for with that darker purple.
I have to find an SM tomorrow to, for my friend to paint. You mean a Space Marine? If you have a Games Workshop, can't you just go in there? Not bad, thanks. How's yourself and the missus? Doing pretty okay. Kind of had a lousy birthday, but it was not really anyone's fault. Just a string of bad news that didn't affect me too personally. And right now she's down in North Carolina because a friend invited her to a career day thing. So, she's going to that. She's going to be presenting in front of children about the career choice of being an independent artist. So I'm looking forward to it. Hope it's doing well. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm definitely much better now that I kind of got over the funk of the weekend. And I'm honestly just debating what do I want to do for dinner now, because she left some kielbasa just in the fridge that she decided she didn't want because it wasn't really agreeing with her. Thank you. But at the same time, I really just want to eat horrible fast food, and I kind of just want to order Taco Bell. Like, DoorDash it over, because I'm far too lazy to leave the house again. And as for Space Marine, Remnant, do you have a Games Workshop near you? Because I'm pretty sure they'd be willing to supply you with a free one, for a friend to paint. Because they do have that free model dealy-do. And to be honest, I kind of wish I knew earlier. I've got like 5 of the same starter model that I'm not using for anything. They're just sitting in a drawer. So I could have mailed you one. Oh no, I put all the water in there. We're ordering Domino's later. That sounds lovely. Unfortunately, none of the pizza joints around where I live are very good anymore. We used to have a Pizza Hut that I liked, but they've become increasingly greasy since I've moved down here. And the Domino's is very bland. Like, they have the garlic, buttered, breaded, whatever crust, but it's very kind of dry and doesn't have a whole lot of flavor beyond the chunky garlic. And we try not to order Papa John's because we don't want to support the guy. That and their food's overpriced and we don't like it too much. So we just don't really have a very good pizza joint in the area. Has that mini been scaled up? A lot, yes. This was a Hero Forge mini that I scaled up 300 times. And I actually have... all the near Pizza Huts here have disappeared. That doesn't surprise me. I have this guy too. And I have... this guy. Yeah, we used to have like a sit-in Pizza Hut on the other side of town. And one of my friends took me there when I first moved down here. And I really liked it. It didn't feel like a true restaurant, but it was definitely a fancy-pantsy way to eat Pizza Hut. So the fact that it kind of closed down during the pandemic made me a little sad. Yeah, the person who did these for me did a cracking good job with these models. I'm really impressed with the creativity that he brought forth with them. So I'm gonna have a lot of fun painting them, though honestly I feel like this guy is taking me way too long, and I'm going to end up spending a whole lot less time on the next ones. Because as fun as it's been, I'm wasting time. You know what I mean? Because I definitely know some speed painting shortcuts I can take. Speaking of speed painting shortcuts, where are my dry brushes? Dry brushes. So his hair is like a black brown, and that's just a pure black. So if I hit it with a dry brush with a little bit of black and a little bit of brown, maybe it'll do exactly what I expect it to do. Beautiful. Just as I thought. Dry brushing black brown on black makes it look faintly black-brown. This is why they pay me the big... We had Pizza Land restaurant serve deep pans that shut down years ago and don't know why. They were awesome. I think that's what the next topic of discussion should be. What is the wildest thing you guys can cook up in your brains for why Pizza Land would have to shut down. That's your essay prompt, guys. Try and think of the wildest reason for Pizza Land to have to shut down. I'm going to guess drug ring. I'm going to guess that Pizza Land was actually the front for a major methamphetamine drug empire. And they got found out and were like, well, boys, the jig is up. And the only reason why I guess that is that there was a really... I found out later it wasn't great, but for my unexposed brain, I thought it was great Greek restaurant in college. And I found out that that's exactly what they were. They were a front for a methamphetamine business. And that made me sad because they had to close down. Dial-a-meth? Exactly. What a meth. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, guys. I've been teaching high schoolers all day, and the only way that I've been able to keep my sanity in check is to use the worst dad jokes I can to make them mad at me. Because I found out very quickly that ninth grade inner city kids hate two things. They hate having to pay attention, and they hate dad jokes. But I also found out that can I have a Coke and ice with that? I love it. But yeah, I found out that they hate dad jokes, but it definitely makes them hate me less. So I don't use them all the time, but when I do, they get very upset at me. But yeah, I like that. Can I have a Coke with ice with the with that pizza there? We're gonna make a big old meth. Okay, gonna mix in a little more, just the regular brown for the stave, and we're gonna gently brush up to a lighter color on the stave, and hopefully, in doing so, it will bring out some more of the details and the raised ridges. But yeah, I hate when good restaurants close down. Especially because since you don't know the back dealings of said restaurant, as far as you were concerned, it was just a good restaurant. So when they do finally have to close down for whatever reason, whether it be tax evasion or just lack of business or, a death in the family causes them to decide it's time to shut it down. I know that one of the, two of those are far more extreme than one of them. But no matter the excuse, it always sucks. What do they cut it with? The pizza roller. That way they get even slices every time. I don't know where this joke is going anymore. I've lost the plot, guys. I'm trying to do too many things at once, and the brain is shutting down. I don't know what that is. I don't even know how to pronounce that. I've been doing some talks at schools about digital sculpting and rapid prototyping. I take my hat off to any teacher. I definitely feel like that seems to be the sentiment that's going around now, especially in American public schools, is like they've both realized and decided to violently ignore that public school teachers do a lot. And by no means do I think like we're superheroes or anything, but with a lot of the traditional other things kind of breaking down, structures breaking down, public school teachers suddenly have to be a lot more to these students. And the way that public school teachers and teachers in general were able to kind of treat students because of what was expected to happen at home. Rohypnol. I'm gonna look it up. Rohypnol? It's a CNS depressant that belongs to a class of drugs known as benzodiazepines. Oh. I think it's Rohypnol. Give me a second. Is that it? Because if it's a benzo, isn't that what they use? Yeah. Oh yeah. Isn't benzo the stuff that they put in methamphetamine? I could be wrong. I've watched a little bit of Breaking Bad, so I have a cursory knowledge of these things, but I don't want to claim like I know much. I'm an English teacher, not a chemistry teacher, so that means I'm barely qualified for the job as is. Not to pick on any English teachers, though I feel like I can because I am one. That was a bit much, but that might actually work okay. Let's go ahead and do some kind of artistic dry brushing here. Give it kind of that overly cartoony shine, and from what it looks like, it'll actually just blend right back in, which is kind of nice. Okay. I mean, I suppose that makes sense, because, yeah, it makes sense to cut a methamphetamine with a benzo. I know very little about meth outside of the smidgen of knowledge I've gotten from watching Breaking Bad. And I think I'm okay with keeping it that way. You know what I mean? Being a well-spoken, well-educated person on the chemistry of hard drugs is not something I want to have in my resume. Whoops. And I dropped my brush and got in a bunch of stuff. My fingers are really butterfingery recently. There we go. I'm in the UK, schools are hard work. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I can't imagine what the public school system is like in other countries. I feel like, just in general, the United States looks at Europe as this, like, fantasy land where everything goes relatively well, and because those countries have decent support, that even if it's not necessarily great, it's considerably better than what we're dealing with. And so we just look over there and we're like, man, I wish we could have XYZ that's happening over in Europe and have things like European schools. But at the same time, I've also heard that European schools are starting to have a big struggle as well. But I mean, I don't really know where my perspective can come from, because we had like 3 bomb threats this year, and one day where we had to basically be in a lockdown for like an hour and a half while they searched the school for either a weapon, a firearm, or an explosive device. And I live in I don't want to call it backwater, but Roanoke, Virginia isn't exactly a bustling metropolis, if you get my drift. It's fairly quiet, and actually his eyes didn't end up too wall-eyed. I'm pretty happy with that. And I really like how the, it ain't perfect, but I really like how the staff turned out. And we've gotten to a point, and this I actually hate to admit, but we've gotten to a point where going a day without a fight is kind of a big deal, because they've just become so normalized. So, yeah. That's kind of the environment I'm coming from, and the only thing that keeps me from the only thing that keeps me in the job is that I work with some of the lowest kids in the school, and it definitely makes me happy to know that they're genuinely happy to see me. Like when I was out earlier this year because of the medical issues, my he's not a teacher's assistant, that's demeaning to say. He's my co-teacher because he has equal qualification. But anyway, he said that they were pretty consistently asking if I was okay, and were genuinely concerned when I was gone for more than like 2 days. And given that these are the same kids, not all of them, but a good number. Hey, Shy Bulls, thanks for the follow. I always get happy when I hear the modified Jumba scream, and I get to see the Amogus have its time. Always makes me happy. But these are kind of the same kids, some of them that will just straight up like ambush someone to fight them. I've donated three 3D printers to my local school. They have no money. That's really cool. 3D printers are awesome, and more people should be allowed to mess with them. So the fact that you're giving them that opportunity is really neat. I used to work for the yearbook department, as the yearbook department, since there was no one else in it. And I ended up having to spend like $1,500 of my own money to buy new cameras because the ones that were left when I got there either didn't work or were almost a decade old. So it was really a case of, if I want to get anything done, or if I want the students to get anything done, I need to upgrade these cameras. But yeah, I really don't want to turn this into a time where I whinge about my job, because that's kind of why I like the painting, is I don't have to think about my job. I will say that, like I said, I am really happy to know very clearly that, by and large, the kids really like me and my class and really like being there. But beyond that, I really like how this guy is turning out. He's got some weird orbly boos that I don't think... It doesn't look like they showed up as strongly on here as they were supposed to. Like, they didn't form properly on his staff. Which is weird, because this was with a very nice 3D printer. Oh, okay, that's because they're not supposed to form up very, very tough, or very clearly. They're just kind of... Well, no, that it kind of pootered out right there. But the little teardrop looks is what it's supposed to do. So next I need to fill those in with different gemstones. And all of that turned out okay. And now I need to paint the strings, the chords at the very top in that same color. Okay, fantastic. So let's hope I can do this without messing it up too much. That was kind of a mess up, but that's fine. It'll be okay. But yeah, sorry, my brain died as I was trying to figure out how to paint this all appropriately. And it's dying again as I'm focusing in. I gotta hold my mouth just right, or else it won't, or else I can't paint it accurately. I haven't painted a D&D mini in what feels like years at this point. I think the last one I really painted was the one that I did, not even as a commission, I just did it because I wanted to paint more. For the friend who ended up commissioning me to do these ones. I've been so deep in the Warhammer hole that I've kind of gotten away from it. Really don't understand the teachers around here when they went on strike wanting more money. One of them drives a BMW Sports and they're wanting more money. Yeah, I can get that. There's probably some... There's definitely some weird contradictions that you see there. But I don't know exactly what the conditions are like for a teacher in Britain. And, I mean, I don't know. I've seen... There are some teachers that definitely are a lot more spoiled, and I don't want to say spoiled, but definitely have a much nicer and more secure home life than others. I mean, the best example I can give you is the only reason I'm not living in an apartment right now is because my parents paid off my student loans. Right, or else I'd have another 6 months? No, another year, I believe. No, another 6 months before my student loans would be forgiven. And by now, with my understanding of how the rates go, I would actually owe more money now than I did when the student loans came into place because of how the compounded interest has worked, even though I have been making payment for 10 straight years. The other part of it, to my understanding, is that, I don't know, like, I know quite a few teachers who are married to attorneys. Like, they're married straight up to very wealthy individuals, and so they're doing fine, and they have enough money, and they're coming in with, you know, the attitude of I can just leave whenever I want to. But then there are other teachers who are driving 15-year-old cars and are just are skipping sick days because they can't afford to miss another day's work, and are taking jobs during the summer for the same reason. So, there's definitely some bad looks from teachers who are fairly well-to-do or are spending their money irresponsibly. But I kind of feel like a grand majority of them, at least here, are just barely struggling to get by. My understanding right now is that even though I have a master's degree and have been in my job for 10 years, I am just now making the starting salary of a master's degree in another field. And don't get me wrong, I live in a real... I feel like I live in a really nice house. It'd probably be massive by British standards. But I also had to buy a house when I was in my second year of teaching, which I can only do because, again, my parents paid off my student loans. Otherwise, I would have stayed in a single-bedroom apartment paying 1.5 times the rent that I was paying for my mortgage. And so I just know that, you know, in my life personally, I've had a series of fortunate events happen because my parents were able to pay, or because my grandmother died, basically. Otherwise, I wouldn't have accrued any value, and I would have been stuck living in these apartments for at least another 1.5 years. And in the meantime, I would have just been flushing almost a third of my income down the drain as I paid back student loans until the other system kicked in, which would have allowed me to have them forgiven because I worked in the public sector for a decade. Because otherwise, unless I suddenly found a job that paid more money, or I started using more than a third of my income to pay for the student loans, they would just keep growing. So I'm not going to try and claim to be a master or an expert or have all the answers to it, because I honestly don't. I know that I'm in a very fortunate situation because of how my parents were able to handle my debt. But beyond that, I don't understand how a school teacher is supposed to live on the money that they have with the kind of job that they have to do. Because I consider myself a fairly mediocre teacher. Teaching in a subject I'm not overly fond of. But I still spend hundreds of dollars of my own money on school supplies and on things to help these kids do what they need to do. And I know my situation is better off because we're in a school system that at least somewhat appreciates us. And Roanoke is definitely considered to be one of the, not the better ones in the state, but it's definitely more in the top half than the bottom half. So, and there are places like pretty much most of the Bible Belt where everything, the last time things were repaired or touched was in the 90s. So like I said, I don't have all the answers, and I'm not going to pretend to. I don't know how we're supposed to survive in the situation that we're in, and I definitely cannot speak on Britain's situation because I know next to nothing about it. So for all I know, there are some incredibly spoiled unionists that are taking advantage of the situation, and those people are making it difficult for communities and people with real issues and real emergencies to be taken seriously. But, again, I'm not from the area, and I'm not going to try and speak like I am. So this guy's not done. But I'm liking how he's looking. Like, I think I've gotten pretty close to his look in this picture. The shadowing is obviously off, but I think I'm getting... Maybe. I think I need to add a little bit more darkness into that, but it also might just be the lighting, because there's more drastic shadows happening in not the lighting. Okay. But that being said, it's like 6:20, and I probably ought to go get dinner. I'm either going to order like $20 of Taco Bell and make myself very ill, or I'm going to eat the kielbasa my wife left. I'm not sure yet, but I'll figure it out. Either way, guys, thanks for joining me. I'm sorry that I kind of rambled a lot about things that but yeah, I definitely appreciate you guys being here, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to stream next, because I've started, and this makes me happy, I've started teaching miniature painting on Wednesdays after school. So I've got some kids that are interested in that, and on I might be able to do it tomorrow. I don't know. I'm trying to exercise more, because now that I don't feel like I'm dying, I want to get more active. And so maybe Thursday, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But thanks, guys, for being here, and thanks for keeping me company. And I hope that me going incoherent about stuff was at least halfway fun to listen to. Once I get back to doing Warhammer stuff, I think I'm just going to start talking about the Horus Heresy books I've read. Or maybe continuing to talk about the new stuff they're putting out for 10th edition. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But again, thank you guys for being here. I'm feeling better about this model the more I paint him. And that makes me obscenely happy. So I will see you all later. Have a good rest of your evenings. And yeah, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.